What's up guys, welcome to another mixing tutorial in my pajamas. Patreons get that intimate content. Thank you guys so much for being here. And let's dissect the tones in my cover of Andrew BAENA's song. Damn, violins, you can chill. Oh my god. I had a lot of fun covering this kick-ass song. And let's get into the tones. So for my master bus, I will turn off all the plugins so that I activate them at the end the same way I do when mixing the song. For the drum sound, this is the same drum sound as my Wage War Alive cover, which I have just did and described in that mixing tutorial in great detail. So go look for it. Wage War Alive, it should be the one not immediately before this one, but one before that. It consists of GGD Modern and Massive shells and the GGD Periphery 4 cymbals. I thought this was a nice combination since the Modern and Massive shells are massive. They're very big in terms of the room, and that even the direct mics have some bigness to them. And the Periphery 4 cymbals are just a very nice pack of cymbals, very cohesive. The Invasion are my favorite, but I'm experimenting with these ones too. And as for the plugins and mixing, you can go watch the Alive mixing tutorial to get the full rundown on it. Oh, and also, they are, the kick and snare have one-shot samples behind them for supreme consistency. So these are the Andrew Wade drum shots Andrew Wade. So there's the sledge kick I am using, fucking thick boy, as well as the sledge snare. Yeah, there it is. Together with the room sample too. It just makes it sound way big. I'll play with and without. You watch the mixing tutorial later, but it's actually night and day. So you can go watch that for the full drum mixing rundown. Let's skip to bass. I am really happy with this bass tone. Nothing different, too different to what I usually do. You guys know I like to use Joel Wanasek bus glue bass, because this guy compresses your low end, compresses your top end, and gives you distortion for the top end immediately. So you go from a DI to this. It's immediately incredible, but there's three flavors of distortion. The A distortion is your dark glass, very grindy. And the C is more of your, I would say, Sans amp. It's also very grindy, but these both, the A and C, have this very sustained distortion character, while the B one is more focused on the attack. And I usually use the A, and today I play with the B, and it does something. It just perfectly sits in the middle of the guitars when the bass part is right. So that's the difference. Today I'm using the B distortion, and the rest is just specific to the song. So here's reducing some of that excess mid-range and boosting some of the good attack on the 2K region. Oh, let's A-B. It just becomes a bit more scooped. Here's a bass boost. So this bass booster is Renaissance Bass by Waves. And the difference between adding an EQ, a static EQ at 74 Hertz or adding this is that this adds a little bit more of harmonics above that frequency. So if this is 74, it's also going to add a bit of 74.1.5, so a little bit of 111, a little bit of 148, because it adds the upper harmonics to the frequency too, which makes it a different flavor of boost. Check it out. If you really focus on the bass, you will definitely hear this. My English is bad today. Limiter. So the purpose of the L1 every time I use it is when there's something with a bit of transient material. So here it's pick attack, that it can be very loud and poke through the mix, especially since it's in the middle. You can just tell the limiter, yo, any peaks that go above this line, distort them so that they don't poke out. And that's what this does. Especially with the B distortion, it's very peaky on the attack. And then it's just my final set of filters to make sure the bass doesn't have excess low end. Anything beneath 50 is going to be trash. It's not note material. It's not going to be trash, but I'm trying to get a loud mix, and this can get very, very subby in places I can't even hear and eat up headroom in the last limiter and not letting me get the mix as loud without distortion. And sometimes you don't know why your mix is distorting so much. It can be that your bass has a lot of this sub 50. So take care of that. And anything above 8K was just fizz as well. That could go to the cymbals. So far we got this. So if I'm balancing bass and drums, I like to hear clearly the bass. The bass note needs to be sitting together with the kick. The kick needs to be just a bit louder than the bass note, and the bass clank needs to be clearly audible. That's just my criteria. Because as soon as I put the guitars, it's drowned. So if it's not clearly audible on bass and drums, when you add guitars, it's going to be too far gone. Guitars have so many plugins today. Oh my god. Let's try to explain this. So here we are with our DI. Oh, let's go to this cool part. DI. So this is my Schecter with a Seymour Duncan Omega, adultery signature pickup, and today's starting point is on the Will Putney amp simulator by STL Tones, the Heavy 2 preset. Featuring a Mesa Boogie Triple Crown emulation that I never used for rhythms before, and a standard Mesa cabinet. I think this is just cabinet 1. I really enjoyed the fizz on this one. This one, together with the fizz on this amp, I thought it really matched Andrew BAENA's signature fizzy tone. His tone is very fizzy in an awesome way. I always find that. And this was a great starting point for it. After that, the filters. So there's some subs beneath 80 that are just keeping the sides busy with low end. That sounds very unpleasant. And the excess fizz above 13K is not really usable. Very slight EQ, basically just removing this notch at 3.8. I'm going to boost it so you can see what I was hearing. Almost negligible. I'm in fact going to delete this. That's sometimes how negligible things are after you mix a song. So don't be afraid when you come and remix stuff to literally delete past decisions. That's another lesson. Now let's start with the excitement and compression. So this guitar compressor here has a chug slayer option that's cool, which is basically making sure that when there are palm muted notes, it compresses them down so that the low end doesn't suddenly become very big on your sides. Check out going into this palm mute section. Not palm muted, about 1 dB of gain reduction, and now we're going to palm mute. You can see it go to like -3, -4, and if I turn it off, you'll hear the palm mutes being very boomy. Not very, but more boomy than without it. Here's a new tool. This is an exciter. I've used one on the drums. If you've went back and watched the FX site, if you went back and watched the live drum mixing to get that drum tone. But this one has many cool things. So this is Vitamin Stereo by Waves. And just like the other exciter, you can choose frequency regions. And excite them separately. And there is a widening feature that can give you a stereo widening with phase tricks on certain frequency regions. So I boosted and excited the high, mid, and high regions. On the breakdown, it's better. To get this scratchiness out of the tone, if I turn it off, it doesn't hit as hard. This one just scratches your ears in the nicest way. And there's this widening trick here that you can just widen one frequency. I'm gonna overdo it. You can also make it mono, which is weird, but I don't know. Just trying different tools. I like this so far. Here's my guitar secret weapon to remove hissiness. Today I didn't remove a lot of hissiness because, like I told you, it's that Andrew BAENA flavor is the fizziness aggression on the guitars, at least to my ears. Here's the frequencies this harshness control plugin tries to remove. You can hear it's a load of those whistles like the one I just deleted before, but it removes them in a different way, mainly an automatic way that I don't have to go EQ fishing for. It's not very important either. I could delete it too. We're now down to 5 plugins. What a mixing tutorial where I delete what I did. Now that's proper content. I don't know. I think it also teaches a lesson that you shouldn't take any of your decisions too seriously because it might just be holding you back and costing you CPU and computer power. So the final guitar compressor is Renaissance Axe by Waves. And the thing about this one is just having a slow attack of 15 milliseconds so that on these breakdown parts, yet again, when there's silence, the compressor reacts to the pick attack of the next note in a good way, which is if the attack is 15 milliseconds, it means the compressor is going to take 15 milliseconds to duck the guitar signal, and those 15 milliseconds will let just the pick sliding on the string go through. So those attacks, if I turn off the compressor, get softer. Still attacky, but if I overdo it, that's insane. I'm gonna literally kill it, turn down the volume for compensation. Can you hear that? So I'm going for the 10% version of this. There you go. Cool guitar compression trick. Awesome. And that is the basis of our mix. Let's go over all the little effects things. So the lo-fi guitar on the breakdowns, which is very, very cool. Oh. It's the same rhythm tone, just with less gain. Heavy filters on the EQ that give it the lo-fi thing. Now you filter it. Oh, okay. Actually, most of the filters are here on the Will Putney EQ. So this is the high-end filter and the low-end filter here. Yeah. Then another set of filters to make it even more radio-like, and the same compressor. Actually, not doing a whole lot. You get a lo-fi tone just like this. You get your same rhythm tone, but you filter it down, and I like to give it a little bit less gain. Then before the breakdown, there's another Andrew BAENA thing, which is lo-fiing your DI signal only. This is what it sounded like. Very full, very rich DI sound. In with the filters. So 600 hertz low pass, high pass, which is pretty aggressive. An 8K 1-2. And then the limiter, by now you know why, to get rid of the peaks of the pick attack. Because I don't want this to be a beautiful, transient, rich DI sound. I want it to be a really flat one. You can see the peaks just dying to the limiter. It really helps the part hit. If I turn off the limiter, it sounds better, but if I turn on the limiter, it sounds just more compressed and flat. Moving on to the intro synth strings. These are just your standard. So in the X-Band 2, there's this big hard pad under the strings thing. Single note programming, very easy. It's all about reducing the thickness. So this is a 750 hertz high pass, which is very aggressive. A little bit of reverb to make them blend. Not a little bit, actually. So 6 seconds at 75% mix. And then it's actually being destroyed by the limiter, which is a funny decision of mine. Not sure what that's adding to the thing, because it just sounds distorted. It was probably just making sure that no note is louder than the next, but it was overdone, so I just took it off. I think that's the lesson for today is you can take stuff off if it's not helping. Don't be too proud and attached to your past decisions. So female A choir. Some EQ to shape it, make it a little bit less thick. 280 high pass, 630 cut, and a 6K boost for that that voice stringiness. Completely different sounds. And a limiter to make sure that no one in the choir is louder than the person next to them. Here it's more correctly applied. After that, they're just my crazy effects. So you got a hi-hat for the breakdown. Shit. It's that shit that makes you want to groove. I just EQ'd the... This is almost negligible. It was just a little bit too pokey. So this 20 kilohertz low pass, let's try to bypass it. I can hear it being a little less intrusive on my headphones. I hope you can too. There's this cymbal swell. I just removed a little bit of low end out of it. Oh, it's a hit here, but it's a swell leading up. And epic bass drop. Oof. Only thing to note is that... What was it? Oh my god, I was going to say something. That was... Oh yes. These effects aren't going through the master compressors, which I'll show now. They are bypassing all the mix bus compression and going straight to the limiter. This is important because the bass drop hitting the mix compressor is going to make it duck, and we want the mix compressor to not be destroyed by the bass drop. So if we go to play the mix, let's see the mix bus processing. First things first, Golfos. This guy is like a magic EQ that makes stuff sound better. That's its tagline. That's how they sell it, because it emulates a human auditory curve in terms of what's perceived as good sounding. So you can see with minimal values, what it chooses to do is boost my high end almost consistently, a very shiny 13K boost. And it balances the bass so that when the kick is hitting, it ducks it down a little bit. And when the kick is not hitting, it lets the bass go through a little bit louder. So that's the main thing that it does. What it does in the mid-range is just magic. It's just reacting to the guitars. So this guy, it just makes it everything 2 to 5% cooler. Mixed bus compression, we're aiming at not too heavy of a compression here. Because there's another compressor we'll be hitting heavier. This one is just leveling the kick and snare a little bit. Tape is also here, so it's just the slightest setting, just turning it on gives the bass a little bit of bigness. This just makes the bass bigger. Pay very close attention. Bass and kick really win with this. The compressor we're hitting harder is the multi-band one. So first I'm gonna let you look at it. So it's a compressor just like this one, but there's individual frequency bands you can control. This can help you shape the sound a little bit. And what it also does is that it applies an EQ curve to your mix, just like Golfos is doing. So it's a mixture of Golfos and your normal mix bus compressor that compresses everything. If I overdo it, you'll hear its effect. It just ends up making the mix a little bit more aggressive because it reacts a little bit less to the high frequencies and acts a lot to control the lower end and mid-range. you should try running your mix through a multi-band compressor and seeing what happens. Because it can teach you a lot about your mix. Because if your guitars are too loud, it's working a lot to reduce them. But if they're too quiet, you'll see the mid-range band not even move. If my kick is too loud, the bass one will blow up. So this can teach you a lot about your mix balance. After that, it's just my usual Ozone 8 limiter. And my limiting strategy is just cutting down on the kick and snare. If I want louder than that, I will eat into the guitar room for a very distorted but very loud mix. And if I want even less, I'll just touch the kick and snare. But usually I like to completely clip off the kick and snare. You can see when the kick and snare are hitting, there's reduction. Let's play the chorus to see what's up. There's constant guitars here that are not being hit. It's just the kick and snare being clipped off. So that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this mixing tutorial. Be sure to watch the Wage War Alive one for the drum sound and all the other ones because your support covers access to them. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.